because it's already there. It's already in the people. And
now what I find interesting is that we talk about Tohora and Pouakai, and we think whales don't live near the coast of the Netherlands. Well, maybe up to Sweden, Finland and those waters. But we were kind of a bit of exploring, would they have been here too? Sometimes a whale strands at the North Sea coast. And that's a sign, if I think back of one of our first videos we did, and you told about the tree walking into the ocean, and when it strands itself as a whale, it tries to get back. That should be a sign that we had some sort of a whale species near our waters too.
I had the pleasure of talking to a Dutchman, when I was telling him the story of Tohora being a tree in the forest before it entered the ocean. He didn't know the story, but he did say that he'd heard from his old people a story about here, where the whale came from the land into the ocean, here in Holland.
I didn't know that one, but it's here.
Yeah,
yes.
You can imagine how excited I got when he told me that.
Yeah, yes. And that's going on actually, just like you said, like the more people you speak, the more you talk about the stories, the more they seem to come back to some universal story, which is about our planet. And now we're kind of bringing it back to every story, ancient story, eventually tells the same story about our planet, and it wants to be told again, and wants to be understood again, and we need to now.
We need to. Yeah. Again, to know our future, look to our past, and that's whether it's my past or the past of the people of this land. It will be the same. You know, it's. Well, if not the same, very, very similar, very close to being the same. Because I can guarantee in those times, like we said before, even in your ancient times, over here, this would have been the classroom. This is not solely the classroom of Maori. This would have been the classroom of your children as well.
Sure, yeah.
And the interrelating of your ancestors with the animals. You know, when we were in Spain in lockdown, it was fascinating to see the shepherd where we were staying. The shepherd walking his sheep.
Through the village? Through the town?
Oh, up the road past us.
Yeah.
He didn't need dogs. Just wherever he walked, this whole flock of sheep would follow him. You know, it was beautiful to see.
Yeah.
So,
great. Yeah. And that was normal, of course.
Yeah.
Before there were traffic lights and a lot of cars, and yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been beautiful to see that.
Yeah.
Would you like to share something about your experience in the whale cave? Is that something we could share, or do I have to cut it out?
Sure. No, I thought I'd talked about it.
Have we talked about? Sorry?
Yeah.
We already talked about it?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Well, you told me about it once, but I'm not sure if we recorded it. Let's talk about it again.
Yeah.
And if we did talk about it before, then I can take it out. But that was a very remarkable experience you had. It was in Spain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before lockdown, Sharon and I had a joint workshop together in high in the mountains behind Malaga, and I mean right up the top of the mountains. And a family of shepherds had heard that a Maori was in town, and so they extended an invitation for me to visit. So after the workshop we visited, and that visit made me question, who am I? Because this family of shepherds are what we call kaitiaki, guardians of this particular mountain, and it has 4 caves in it. And with respect to the shepherds, I won't disclose where it is, even though they do small tours there. The Spanish government tried to, I don't know if I should say this on this, naming governments, but you can edit it anyway. But the government had tried to take the mountain off them, and the shepherds said, over our dead bodies, and so they were left alone. We met the grandson when we went to the cave. Well, went up to the top of the mountain, and he explained what was in the entrance, and then he said, "Okay, we can go in now," and I said, "No, we can't." He said, "After what you've described, I have tikanga, I have protocols I must go through." And so I did. And the first cave inside was full of what we call ko iwi, which is human bones. And before the arrival of the English, we never buried our dead. We put them in caves. And so I acknowledged that burial cave and everybody who was lying in there. And then we entered the ceremonial cave, and I did the same thing, of course, acknowledged. And the communal cave, which was the main one, still had smoke up the wall. There was no electricity in there. The family had kept it original from how they found it, so we used lanterns and torch, and no man-made steps. Everything was natural. And from the communal cave, we were approaching this last cave, and I heard this sound, and I thought, no, I am not hearing this. But my wife and 2 other women turned around to me and said to me, "Can you hear that?" And what I was hearing was what we call a karanga, a traditional welcome that our women do on our ceremonial grounds to welcome visitors or visiting tribes. And so that was what I did here. And that's what made me question, who am I? Because it totally, not freaked me out, but it was one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had. And on the walls and the roof of the main cave were rock drawings, and those rock drawings dated between 29,000 and 49,000 years ago, and 2 civilizations had lived in those caves. And when we got to the 4th cave and we entered that cave was known as the Whale Cave. And then on the wall were rock drawings of the whale and the turtle, honu, the turtle. And I got quite emotional then.
Can imagine.
Yeah, it was such a special occasion.
Because it was all up on the mountain.
This is on the top of the mountains.
So logically you would say the water has been a lot higher. Maybe.
We have stories not to be told yet, and we talk about the mountains of the sea. But when we walked out, I said to the grandson, and it frightened him, I think, because he couldn't wait to leave after that. But I said to him, this mountain we're on now is the feminine. I said, in my culture it's always a triangle. I said, if we look across the valley, we'll see the masculine mountain there, which there was. But what got him was, I said, the 3rd mountain is what we call the Kaitiaki, the guardian of the masculine and the feminine. But the Kaitiaki mountain always has a flat top, and this one had a flat top. That's what I said to Sharon, who am I? Where do I come from? Because it was easy for me, even though we were up the top of a mountain in a whale cave, it was easy for me to picture the ocean that high, because we've forgotten that there were two continents. Mu, that covered nearly all the Pacific, was above the ocean, or, you know, a continent. And of course Atlantis, before they sank. And so you can imagine two continents that were existing.
Yeah.
That water has to go somewhere. And I could imagine, when we got out, I could imagine the ocean being that high. You know, the communal cave rock drawings were drawings of animals. One was a boar, a wild pig.
A boar, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, they were they'd hunt, obviously, but also they fished. But they didn't have to go miles and miles to the ocean to fish. And to have the whale and the turtle there, to me, said that they were just outside.
Yeah. So is the turtle also a specific animal for your culture? Because I know it's for Native American, it's Turtle Island, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very symbolic, but is that for your culture also?
Only as a carrier of the ancient knowledge. It represents travel, of course, but it when the Kauri tree entered the ocean and passed that ancient knowledge on to Te Rehu the dolphin, Honu the turtle, but also to Maki, the orca, the killer whale. We have stories of sailing to a land before white man ever set foot on that land, and we call that land Te Honumotsu, and Te Honumotsu means Turtle Island. And you can imagine if the continents were above, even though my ancestors sailed all the oceans of the planet after the continents sank, but you can imagine how much easier travel would have been in our ancient times.
Yeah.
But we have connection with from what's now Chile up as far as Peru, with South America, and then Turtle Island.
I was in a ceremony like, I guess, almost a year ago, September 2020. It has to do with the turtle. We were ending up the ceremony. It was with the Alifuru people. And Jan Pieter and I, as a Frisian, were invited to be there also. And we were ending up the ceremony, and I was called to the west. There was a place open in the circle. But I was really scared, like I cannot stand up here in front of all these people and say, sorry, I have something to say. I didn't have anything to say, but I was called to the west place of the circle. So then something happened, and I got the opportunity to say this to one of the people of the organization. And she said, hang on. And she gave me the opportunity to go stand at the west. And I was standing there in the middle of this all these people at the west, and I was like getting really nervous, and I said, well, there's a place that there's someone who isn't here that wants to be here. Yeah. And it wants to be heard. I feel I have to say it because it needs to be seen. And I said, as soon as I say it, there's a turtle walking from my place from the west going to the middle of the circle. I saw it walking. I didn't know what the circle had to do with the ceremony and all, and I still didn't know, but now I get a picture. But then, of course, I didn't know that, but within the culture of the Alifuru, they always leave one place open for the ancestors.
Yeah.
But this was specific the female lineage that I had to represent. So it was really nice that I did it, although it was very scary for me to do it. But then this turtle showed up. And it went to the middle of the circle. And I'm still curious about this turtle. Why did it show up at that point, with the Frisian people and the Alifuru people brought together?
Well, I don't find it odd because of our connections with our voyages here. your connection with your ancestor who was Maori. Maori is a modern term as far as I'm concerned, a modern name for us. But from our voyages, our ancient voyages from the start, is our connection with Maluku, because they're the same as us. They're our brothers and sisters. So of course we may not see the energy that was there in the West, but it would have seen you, or seen
Probably.
your ancestral connection and called you over. It wasn't you that, sometimes, or we have a habit of thinking that we made that decision to go west.
I said no, and it was like a pull. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to.
Yeah. It's it calls you over.
Yeah, it was like that. Yeah, but my feet had to bring me there.
Yeah.
And I was resisting it. yeah. But so did we have turtles also in our Western European country, the Netherlands, or did we discover the turtle when we went on our boats to shore?
I was going to say, we had our voyages over here to Turtle Island, to South America, to the South Pole. Doesn't mean that your ancestors voyaged as well. They're known as great voyagers as well. And so, if you have the connection with the turtle, if it's not here, well, it would have been part of your, because
Exactly.
no matter whether it was in our ancient times or today's modern times with intermarriage, my children, for instance, my grandfather was Irish. I identify as Maori because that's how I was raised. So I carry those two. My wife is Croatian, German, Italian, and of course her father was English. So she carries that.
Yeah.
My children carry all of that
Yes.
with them.
Yeah.
So you can imagine them, once we make it to Croatia, I fully expect recognition from, ancestors from those times, recognizing my children through their mother. But also here in Holland, there are many people I've met here who they're very shy, and it's really hard to connect with them, but with my two daughters. But there are many people here who don't know why, but they would love to connect with them. And with them, with their Māori blood over here, of course it's going to, there will be recognition from some. It's the same with my voyage here. My canoe in my time has wings. That's how I got here. But I'm not the first Tohora to arrive in Europe. My ancestor sailed here as well. And so from those voyages, I never believe everything that's happened to me here in Europe is not coincidence. And there's always that form of recognition. Somebody might be watching this now and say, it happens a lot. I don't know why, but I wanted to meet you. I don't say that. I just see a person. If there's recognition there, well, then I'll smile.
Yeah. But what we're actually now talking about is that within ourselves, we're interconnected with like every continent in the world.
Yes.
Actually. These DNA tests you can do also, and then you find out you have like a percentage of this and percentage of that in your DNA. And would that be something that would be important for us in these times we're living in? To be aware of that I'm not just Dutch, not just Frisian, but
yes, it is of utmost importance. How can I put it? I've experienced it myself. I don't carry Māori tattoo, tamoko. Only because I'm a stubborn man and I must earn the right. I already have my tattoo I want on my back, but I haven't had it put on because nobody's told me I've earned the right. When a person saw the tattoo, which was given to me from my grandfather's side, my Irish side, and a man said, but that's not a Māori tattoo. So not seeing me as Māori. Many Māori, or there are no more full-blood Māori left now. We all have mixed blood. Now, if we acknowledged what we carry within us, we wouldn't be attacking a person just because he's white, or he's black, or he's yellow, or bloody purple or pink. Because we all carry inside ourselves, you know, so many different heritages now, but we've forgotten that. And
it goes beyond the idea I'm you or we're all one. You know, that's a bit fashionable to say this. If you're especially if you're spiritual, it's fashionable to say we're all one, and which of course we are. But what you now point at is, and what we're talking about, it's so important to be aware that we actually, in a very concrete, tangible way, have all these ancestral connections all over the world. And it's not like an idea, it's actually in our blood. Our great-great-great-grandfathers went on a boat, were sailing to the other side of the world, found a woman, brought them back, etc. That's then you get the true connection. Like then you can feel physically there's this connection.
exactly.
It's different than be all the way up there.
Tumurangi whenua is our word for the tree of life. I'm just the root. My children are the branches growing out, and my future grandchildren will be the extra bright, etc., etc.,
And the leaves and
And you know, I know who I am. As I said, I recognise myself as Māori because that's how I was raised by my grandmother. And so I carry the DNA of my very first ancestor. But I also carry the DNA of my very first Irish ancestor.
right.
And I love both sides of my ancestry very dearly. And my Irish side are with me as well in times of need. And luckily mine isn't complicated, I only have the two.
With your children it's different. With
Yeah. But that ancestry, you know, that weaving, if you want to call it that, or that DNA strand, where did we go wrong? You know, that it should all lead to love instead of war. You know, that's what I was leading up to. The racism, you know, if like with my own people, like my own country, I should say, with great respect to my people. But if my people were racist towards people with white skin, you know, they're attacking themselves as well. If I should have said, if I was a racist and attacked somebody who was white, I'd be attacking myself.
And your ancestors. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if we learn to stop that, well, then we can look at a good life of living together. Our ancestors, you know, my ancestors, we voyaged here for many, many years and traded peacefully with your ancestors, your Dutch ancestors, your Friesland ancestors. And so they must have got on in those days. You know, mind you, my ancestors were very big men, but again, the old teaching us how you could actually live in harmony with each other.
Yeah.
You know, I could go into our more ancient stories of when we first set foot on what's now New Zealand soil. That's another story again, but that's a perfect example of living in harmony with another race.
We'll keep that for another one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.